is Rich Valdez. Ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. I'm not even sure what to say after this week, Rich. But first and foremost, how are you doing?
I am fine. Family are all well. Everything is good on my end. Thank you, Ted. Good to be here virtually across the desk from you. First broadcast, at least for me, first broadcast of the year. So, things going on here on Haps and everywhere else. But I'm doing fine. And this is only water. It's not vodka.
Big shout out to Haps, YouTube, WGBB, 1240 AM, all the above. All of our friends, the Underground, man, a couple other affiliates. I'm forgetting right now, but it's a new year.
Affiliates overseas. We still getting affiliates overseas catching us.
Oh, our good friends at XRP Radio, who still grab the podcast. Tiz Shearer, want to give him a big shout out. Yeah, it's a crazy week, Rich. Crazy week. I'm not even sure what to say to you with what we witnessed. I mean, first of all, we physically used to work together in a physical office. Now everything is virtual. Yes. Even when you were in a physical office, I'm not in an office anymore. Together. Because of COVID.
Right.
But this past week, dude, like the insurrection, this felt like, we had a lot of lives were lost. Just this rhetoric, this hate speech, and people being activated. I don't know what else to say, Rich.
It's easy to say. The most chaotic day in U.S. history during my lifetime.
Okay.
This was more chaotic than 9/11, and I say that because 9/11 was we saw it as it started. Almost not controlled, but immediate external terrorist attack. We were kind of able to determine that, and move on from there. We know how to handle that. We know how that's caused. We know what's going on. It was still crazy how it was affecting the country, but we know how to deal with these things. This, what's the closest thing you can call it? Think about it. Boston Tea Party, and even then, that was against the Brits. This is insurrection. This is, some will say, treason. This is homegrown terrorism. Don't try to call it any other thing but that. This is not protesters. This is terrorists. American terrorists attacking the American government. When we saw what's going on TV, now I missed the beginning of it. As it started going down, then I started getting text messages and seeing things like, people asking, "Are you watching this? Are you seeing what's going on?" And first they're climbing the buildings. Then as they're trying to break into the buildings and breaking glass, then they're crushing police officers indoors trying to get through. And then you see some of these knuckleheads walking around in offices. You had this guy with his feet up on Pelosi's desk, and the other one carrying out Pelosi's podium, and then the other one who jumped off the balcony and into Pence's seat in the house. This was insanity. And we'll get into some more of how it would have been handled differently if it was other people. We'll get into that in a bit more. But this was just the most chaotic thing which I've ever seen in my life happening here in the States. And if anyone says they didn't see it coming, they didn't have their eyes open.
We want to give a big shout out to Bobby Shadow from Newport Beach. Bobby, what's going on? Have checked out your show on a couple of occasions. Keep doing what you're doing, and thanks for the follow. Rich, definitely want to get back to, it was just beyond crazy. I'm trying to get the photos correct on here. Let's see. But I want you up here also. So let's see how we're going to do this. This is...
And while you're doing that, just talking about, the people that were there who not long ago were screaming, Blue Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter. But there they are attacking police officers.
Rich, the absolute
died.
Craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yep, and all this following a man. I'm sorry, they're not supporting the presidency of the United States. They're trying to support this man.
They're worshiping an idol.
Egomaniac.
Yep, an idol.
Egomaniac who has already said, oh yeah, he wants his people to snap to him like Kim Jong-un's Mr. North Korea's people snap at him. This is an egomaniac. This is a guy who, again, I won't speak on things I don't know, but I've read whose family did not exactly raise him in the most democratic society thoughts or weren't raised in that type of ideology. And they're falling for it. And it's purely nothing but a power grab. It's all about power. It's all about people who believe they have power. And, they get voted in by the people, but still they believe they have the power to do whatever they want. And they don't want to give up that power and do anything to keep it. And they didn't realize just how much of a madman they were following. Or if they did, they chose to ignore it. Until now you're hearing so many people, I'm not going to say apologize, but now they're calling it off. Now they're going on the offense saying, no, this was wrong. We shouldn't have done this. This is too far. Could have said something about that 5 years ago before the man even got into office. But definitely you could have started removing and pulling back your support 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, instead of almost blindly following him just because he is supposedly in the party that you're a member of, not looking at what was best for the country and best for the people.
Yeah, it's an ugly situation. And now we're a few days beyond that point because the shock and awe is over. I mean, I don't know about you, but like the previous night before this insurrection, Twitter was ablaze because there were so many independent video journalists out there recording this type of stuff. And I'm like, man, everyone, I said, I knew everyone was going to DC, but I was like, I had no idea it was going to be at that level.
Because none of this was a surprise.
No, none of it was a surprise.
Right.
So we saw this, we in a certain way, we kind of saw this coming. In a certain way, we saw this coming, and like I said, the night before, when everyone thinks of, well, not everyone, when the masses think of, journalism or cable news networks, there's so many independents out there that were pulling footage and putting footage up online, and you were like, whoa, wait a minute, what the hell is going on here?
Right.
And then that's when you finally see it, and you're like, whoa. So that from the previous night, it's pretty hard to say law enforcement wasn't aware because law enforcement was out there.
Law enforcement was out there. It was, if the security details and police forces and, those who were supposed to monitor and keep an eye on these things had been doing so on the channels and media and venues on which all this was being discussed, a la Parler and the hidden sites, pages like on Facebook and the like.
We
they have been talking about
and Gab and
all those sites. They've been talking about it. They've been saying, okay, well, so we'll meet over here, and do you think we're going to be able to get in this building over here? And wait, well, don't get on a plane because you don't want to take a chance. If you're going to carry anything with you, I'll pick you up over here, or we can take the car together. This was blatantly discussed on those sites, and obviously it was completely ignored. And then, we're hearing that, the DC police was asking for support, and the Capitol Police were asking for support, and they kept getting denied that support which they were requesting. And now look what happened. But let it have been some other people who were just going to do what was clearly not a violent protest. Let them just talk about it, and you would have had the Capitol building lined up with armed to the hilt SWAT teams and ready for anything. And they would not have let a person get, let alone get over the wall and get into the building. They wouldn't have let a person climb the wall. They would have been shot.
Well, I think I'm going to be fair. Mainstream media, the morning after, after the situation happened, I heard that echoed on many occasions that if this was BLM or BLM related or somewhat affiliated with BLM, there would have been, tear gas and flex handcuffs and
dogs and water cannons.
A little bit of everything. And it's like, that's where you start to look and you say, are there two Americas? You kind of wonder.
You know the answer. No, this is true.
Hey,
maybe this might have given some people the understanding, those with somewhat of an open mind might have looked at this, or did. Excuse me, I won't even say might. Some of those with more open minds did look at this and say, oh, wait a second now. This response here is nothing like, what the response would have been otherwise. And this could have been treated and, handled completely different. But then, let's not forget the allegations that, some of this was inside job. There are many reports of officers from various locations around the country coming in there with the quote unquote protesters. We'll call them terrorists from now on. And, flashing badges and saying, give me police courtesy and let me get in here with my friends, and doors being left open, and a whole lot of support on the back end of this. No one, I'm not even going to say no one's going to talk about that, because they are starting to talk about that, because it is starting to all come out. The Department of Justice, FBI, all kinds of investigations. If it started, they're looking at, who is it? The Capitol Police Chief either has resigned or is being forced to resign.
He was scheduled. I just want to jump in. He was mentioned, he received the call. I guess through his through the press, it was mentioned January 16th. He's already gone.
Right, he's gone already.
He's already gone.
And there's a couple more big quote unquote a couple security leads who are now going to be resigning over this.
Of course,
this is going to get deep. This is going to go farther down the rabbit hole than anyone's going to want to believe when the investigations go deeper.
Unfortunately, what we're going to also find is military, because the support is so strong for the president within the military, and it just gets down to the point where all of this talk, after a while, people become activated.
Right.
And people are unable to tell what's what. So that when those words were spoken, hey, you go march down there and go show how strong you are. And I'm going to march down. I'm going to meet you down there.
Right.
You remember the term putting a battery in someone's back?
And off they go like the bunny.
Right.
They brand names, right? Well, see, the thing is that I don't say that this was people misinterpreting what they were being told. They did exactly what they were being told. There was no misinterpretation at all. This was intentional attempted insurrection, or at the very least, intentional attack on the Capitol and attack on the building. There was no, we didn't really think. There was no misinterpretation of words being said. What happened is what was intended to happen by Mr. Trump.
So after all of this, after everything what we saw, government officials, we saw people being, video footage of, the Air Force protester or invader being shot. The politicians still went amongst most of them. Well, some of them went amongst party lines and still continue to object.
A lot of them said, "All right, enough is enough," and changed.
Enough is enough. I'm out.
And a lot of them, said, "No, this is just beyond anything we were ever willing to be a part of." But yeah, you're right. There was still a number of them that stuck with the whole story, that stuck with the denying the electoral count,
right?
And stayed with the insanity. Now,
I'm just going to still. So all hell has broken loose, and I'm still going to roll with this BS.
Yes, that's what they said. All right. So, I mean, let's not think that they're all out of their minds. It's these a good number of these people really believe what they're hearing. They really believe every single thing that's put in front of their face on whatever social media platform they may be on. And they're going to follow the rhetoric. They're going to follow the lies. It won't matter. You're hearing stories, and people who still right now this minute saying, "Oh no, that wasn't Trump supporters. That was Antifa that was out there doing all that. That wasn't really the supporters." And even the supporters are out there saying, "No, don't tell them it was Antifa. It was us. We're taking credit for it."
Right.
You can't make this stuff up.
It's you hit a certain level of insanity. Insanity at the same time, when they meet together, when you hear Fox News saying, no, this wasn't Antifa. These were terrorists, domestic terrorists. Let's get it clear. And everyone that was complicit along the way. I think, when the investigations run their course, it's going to be a lot of people going to jail.
As there should be. As a matter of fact, I mentioned this somewhere else, just inquiring. I mean, so hypothetically, let's say 5 young teenagers or five adults go someplace together to a club. One of them gets into an argument in the club and shoots someone and kills them, and they all leave together. Bad analogy. They all go to a store to rob a store.
Okay.
No one intending to shoot anybody. One of them shoots somebody and kills them. They all get that murder charge unless you find out who the actual person is who did the shooting. Same situation here. You've got an officer of the law who was doing his job defending the building who died during the process. Everybody there should be catching the charge.
I've got to jump in because I want to make sure I know correctly what was said or what was the issue. Was this officer hit with a fire extinguisher and was killed, and later died? Or was this, because I've heard someone was hit with a fire extinguisher, and I was also heard that, someone suffered a heart attack. I've
heard there was the officer that was beaten with the fire extinguisher.
Right.
There was, of course, the person who lived who was shot. And then there were a few heart attacks, a few medical emergencies that they that aren't being pinned exactly on the violence directly. It's we'll call those side effects. There are 3 or 4 of those, something like that.
Okay. So
from what I've read.
We'll be talking about this for a while. I would say to you, impeachment, 25th Amendment, resignation, or let the clock run out. I'm going for the latter. They're going to let the clock run out.
Oh, I thought what do I think is going to happen or what should happen?
What do you think is going to happen?
I think it is going to end. 25th Amendment's off the table. They're not going to do that. There's no way. Definitely not. Impeachment, I still think could happen.
But is there enough time? Is there enough time?
Well, look how fast they're able to get judges confirmed. Look, suddenly you want to make something happen, you can make it happen. And there's a strong political reason for them to do that, so that they can just eliminate, get this guy off the books and never have to deal with him again. Because let's face it, sure, there's still some wackadoo parts of the party that are like, yeah, but we still support him. But the majority of the party has even said, all right, we got to get rid of this guy. And if he's impeached, he can never run for public office again. And then
he was impeached the first time.
Not fully. He was not found guilty.
He ran and got 75 million votes.
He didn't get convicted.
Okay.
Remember, it didn't. So he's got to get both. Both houses have to impeach, and then he's convicted and he can never run again, and he's out of public office, and that's that. Not that it would stop him from spewing his mouth, because then he's a private citizen,
right?
But then also let the lawsuits begin, let the criminal investigations begin, and yeah, that's the end of Donald Trump most likely. I think they let the clock run out, but he's pulled off. There's no Donald, step back. You're done. Pence is going to finish out the next. What are we at now? 12 days, and
10 tomorrow.
Yeah, 10 tomorrow, and then that'll be it. So, fortunately, he's been neutered on social media. Was it Twitter? I think I said permanently at this point.
He's done.
Facebook. I don't know if they said permanently, but they said indefinitely.
Yeah,
which just gives him an out.
Yeah, until his term is over.
Yeah, exactly.
And that includes Instagram also. So
right, exactly.
That's jamming him up from 200 million followers or whatever like that.
Yep.
I mean, noting that some of the people are the same people.
Oh yeah, of course. But still, got him over there. The biggest, the allegedly biggest app that his constituents used, Parler, that's off. Amazon has said, no, we don't want that stuff on our servers. We're not hosting that anymore. And Apple said, no, we're not going to put that app on the App Store anymore. So Parler is pretty much done, as are a couple of other sites. I saw a very brief list of something like between 10 and 15 different sites and organizations which are pulling the plug on his social media abilities. So combine the two, and that will help get us through a long portion. Now, will they still do these things or maintain these bans and suspensions after he's a public citizen? Probably, because he's going to be the same person saying the same lies. So those things don't change. And some of the social media outlets do have rules that if you try to open up another account to get around a ban, well, that account gets banned too. So this, his voice will be neutered for a while, but unless he ends up, in jail or something like that, his voice is not going to go away.
Shout out to our friend Bannerman from Gulfport. Bannerman, what's going on?
How you doing, Bannerman?
So I want to take a step back, because the hypocrisy I want to mention, and we get to mention the hypocrisy while we're riding the platforms. Right. Twitter and Facebook, which is also, Periscope for as long as it's going to be alive, and Instagram, took a lot of money during 2016 campaign. The advent of fake news and everything else like that. Took a lot of campaign money, Rich.
Yes, they did.
Advertising dollars and all of this other stuff, and looking the other way. And did we influence an election? Those were the discussions that were happening, 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So you run its course, you take tons more of money, and now all of a sudden, after all hell breaks loose, you're like, you know what? I want to distance myself from this.
Right. I mean, and I'm not giving them an out at all, because they had until this. This is kind of evidence on or a case on where you can justify the banning of accounts, things like that. But they still did have to balance that free speech line. You can't ban things because it's political. That would be wrong. But you should be able to ban and actively ban when there is blatant lies, or are blatant lies. And that's the part that they didn't follow up on properly. They let a lot of that go through, and people still saying things, and then they believe the things they hear. And
Rich, how many times did the CEOs have to testify that we were watching on our computers or watching through C-SPAN?
Yeah,
they're up again. They're seeing this committee.
Yeah. No, true.
I just think there's a lot of hypocrisy. It's kind of like when there's 2 minutes left in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my sports analogy. that we did not discuss in pre-pro. That there's 2 minutes left in the game, and now I'm going to change the rules. You know, you're rounding all the bases, and the minute you get to third base, Rich, I'm going to send you back around because, you know, I don't think you touched first base and second base appropriately. You know, and I just see the hypocrisy there, and now you allowed this for all these years because we're just talking about the presidency. What about pre-presidency when he was just spouting, popping off on Twitter all day long?
When no one took him seriously.
Yeah,
no one took him seriously up until election day. No one took him seriously.
Okay,
he didn't take himself seriously. I mean, we've had that conversation before.
No, we have.
It was clear in his eyes. He had no idea that he was, or expectation that he was going to win the presidency. And when he won, he was like, "Oh man, what have I done? Where am I?"
It was deer in the headlights. Election night, 2016. So we've gone through all of this policy being, being rolled out on social media and back and forth and all of this, and I'm sure, these companies have made a pretty penny, and that's already been mentioned. But with Parler, I've never logged in. I've never seen it. I have no reason to log in. The fact that now you can't, because the fact that Google said, I'm yanking you out of the Google Play Store. Apple says I'm pulling you out of the App Store, and Amazon says, yeah, your AWS access is dead.
Yeah. Now, if they'd all done that, right, like you're saying, if they had all done these things 4 years ago, we would not be in the situation that we're in now. No question about it.
So I'm waiting for you to say, if Woody had went to the police.
Yes.
So let's flip it on the other side. You're a conservative, and I guess you use MeWe or Gab or Parler, and now you have no access, or now your followers have no access.
You're an extreme conservative.
You're extreme conservative. Okay. Yes. That talks very recklessly on social media.
Yes.
And now you have no access. Is your First Amendment being violated?
Well, I'm going to say no, because you still have alternate means where you can speak. Now, if it turns out that what you're speaking is lies, then that's going to get shut down too. They're banning platforms are being shut down, which is affecting everyone on that platform. If you do have more of a First Amendment issue, I think, if you start individually banning accounts or yanking accounts off the platform, then you're targeting specific people. Now, let's be real. Of course, Parler is known for what it is, so you're just blanketly grabbing a whole bunch of people, but not everyone there is, the conservative, right wing, whatever you want to call it. Not everyone. So you've just taken down the entire site that was supporting it. And then maybe they go after the sites themselves, like the government tried to do or was trying to do. But sure, someone's going to argue it. You can be sure there'll be some lawsuit in the near future over exactly that. But I would also think that the lawyers for all the big companies, before they said we're going to shut these places down, had their lawyers go through that whole exact scenario to say, let's make sure we don't get hit with some kind of civil rights violation on someone's First Amendment.
Right. All right. I guess we're going to table this for now. I want to briefly touch upon two other topics, maybe possibly three other topics. CES for year 2 goes virtual. Big question is, will we ever go back to in-person conferences, even after you have that wonderful vaccine?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, CES is always one of the big things. I mean, sure, you hear some of the media members speaking about, all right, well, things are being delivered to their houses now. They're not going to the conference, but it still takes a lot from, the buzz where, and unfortunately, we've never got that invite. Someone invite us to CES, please. But we've never gotten that invite. But they talk about it. It's like when they're walking around on the floor and run into, a fellow media person, and oh man, did you see XYZ over at the so and so's booth? You should go take a look at that. And you get buzz on the floor, just word of mouth kind of deal. That obviously isn't happening. But I think once we get COVID under control, at least initially, there'll be a big wave of these things because the Comic Cons, CES, all the big industry meetings where the professionals within those industries meet. They still want to have those gatherings. And that's, I think, especially the first year or two, that's the big way of saying, okay, we got through it. We're back. There's a sense of normalcy.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. When do you think these conferences will return?
22.
22? Really?
Yeah.
I was going to say 23, if not 24.
I think it'll be 22. You might be closer with 23, but I think we get it for 22 because we got the entire. They can. Well, I have to hedge that a little bit, right? And say it's all going to depend on where we stand at December of 21, end of this year.
Right.
They're projecting we can get vaccines out to a lot of people by that point. I think it'll be 22 or the latter half. I will say. Latter half of 22.
Okay. I'm comfortable with latter half of 22, if not early 23. We can go back to tech conferences and all the stuff, even the local stuff. It doesn't even have to be the stuff that you have to hop on a plane for. That used to be fun.
Yep.
Getting out there and meeting the vendors and everything else like that. That was another thing we miss. Big week for Roku. Roku has 50 million subscribers or users or however. I am by default a Roku user.
A couple of times.
Through their Roku TVs. What was I going to say to you? Number 2, Roku purchased Quibi. Quibi that we talked about on, we talk about everything, but we talked about Quibi, and we $1 billion digital organization crashes and burns within 6 months, and then sells their content to Roku for $100 million, Rich.
Bargain. I mean, I have my own personal issues with Quibi.
Okay.
With the applications and one of the hooks, Quibi's big thing was, let's have 10-minute content and charge people for it. Doesn't that already exist and basically for free?
Yeah.
But I know personally, I had an issue with the Quibi app not functioning properly in the dual screen mode on a device that was purchased, which touted having that dual screen mode capability within Quibi. And Quibi was part of the subscription fees or subscription bonuses of when signing up for a certain provider. Not going to name names because it's not necessarily a provider. But, I mean, that's a bargain. It's like you just said, somebody's taking a bath on that, of course, because all that money is gone.
It's gone.
Roku can pick and choose. Roku can pick and choose what they want out of that if they want anything. They'll take the broadcast, pieces of it, maybe and use this to get Roku on your phone, something like that, which would be a smart idea. But they've got the Roku app, right? But maybe they turn it into something like that. They'll own some more shows that they can put up on some channels if they want to, and move on from there. So good for Roku.
I think Roku for the long game, and I will full disclaimer, I purchased their stock when they went IPO. Their stock is now, I think, a shade under 400. We'll see it tomorrow. Should be a shade under $400. unbelievable because not only that, the great thing about Roku is there's so much that's free. There's so much available content. And then they have, they allow you to connect all the, to all the various providers. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. Now, you're not going to see, high quality first run stuff on Roku.
Right.
So I guess maybe that's the reason why they purchased the Quibi, so that, hey, if you're looking at bite-sized episodes, or maybe they make it available as like a full movie, because it was like some show I was watching when I had the trial version, and it was something with Lawrence Fishburne. But they were like 8-minute episodes.
Right.
It was like 8-minute episodes, but when you put all the episodes together, it was like a 90-minute movie.
Because that's what they were. They were full scale films, like you're saying. They were chopped up to be presented in the Quibi interface.
So I think it's a good thing for them. The one smart thing where, what we've seen over the years is with Netflix, with Quibi, with Netflix, with Roku, and all these different services, they're being baked into TVs.
Right.
So it's no longer you have to have that secondary hardware piece that you have to plug in, and hopefully that, it's compatible with your TV. It's an app. Make it an app. Tons of money that way. Last question I wanted to ask you was, how was your sleep experience in 2020?
I'm one of the lucky ones. Fortunately, like we all had our issues. There was always some points where you get a rough night's sleep just thinking about what was happening to yourself, to loved ones, to what's going on in the world. I was fortunately one of the lucky ones. But I know there are a lot of people who have sleep issues and didn't have a good experience in sleeping in general over the last year. Because let's face it, it was crazy. But there are certain things that you can do maybe to make sleeping easier for yourself. Thinking, yeah.
I think what I'm reading here is 139 million Americans admit that the pandemic caused them to become a night owl or stay up later than they used to. Anxiety is the number one reason Americans are losing sleep since the pandemic. What's worked for me, Rich, and I know it's worked for you. This mobile phone, I leave it in the bedroom.
I put mine in sleep mode.
I leave it right in my office, and that's that.
Yeah, that's one thing that they do recommend. Either do like you do, get it out, put it in sleep mode,
right?
Because at least then, or do not disturb mode, because
right.
Of course you can then put in some primary phone numbers that if they were to call, you might want to take those calls, but otherwise you get some rest. One of the other things that you should really do in general, they say, is to just avoid technology just before going to bed. If you can, put the phone away. Don't check your mail. Don't get lost in there, because that can always spiral into out of control. Maybe don't even watch the news. Don't get yourself hyped up with whatever may be going on, or maybe stay away from social media. Just give yourself some time before going to bed to just decompress, disconnect, relax, and then maybe you might get a better night's sleep.
I think it's helpful to shut off the CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News every once in a while and just disconnect from that stuff.
Completely.
Another good thing is another issue that my wife and I go back and forth with. The thermostat. It being too warm at night.
That sounds familiar. Sounds familiar. What do they say that it's one of the things with the human body. You don't want to keep things too warm. in bedroom before you go into bed. I know personally, I do like it to sleep cooler anyway, because I feel like, your body just kind of huddles in, you hunker down, and then, you get warm under the covers and
Right.
good night, versus kicking covers off because you're sweating and uncomfortable. And that's what happens.
Yo, you're sweating bullets.
Yep.
You're looking at the thermostat and you're like, why is it at 77 degrees?
It's going to be baked.
Right. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. Yeah, that's really, 2020 was a really, really rough year all around.
Yeah.
Friends, for family. And I'm telling you, it's like 2021 is just like kicking people right in the teeth with this stuff that we just experienced. And, last Thursday, we hit 4,000 lives were lost.
In a single day. Yeah, this is crazy. And again, and that does get, for some reason, it becomes, again, a political statement. Or
it does.
Forum, but it doesn't have to be that way. People would listen. If people would just listen and understand, science is science. Science is tested. Yes. Science is truth. It's that simple.
January, why I'm excited about January 20th? Because science goes back to just being science.
Well, see, here's the thing, and I wish that were true.
Uh-oh.
I don't think it's going to get suddenly just get so quiet again like we all wish that it would. I'm just telling you. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think, Trump is going to get mired in all kinds of legal battles and things like that. I think he's pretty much neutered for the long term. Initially, he's going to be just mouthing off everywhere, wherever he thinks he can or tries to. But this isn't over because, unfortunately, all those who are riled up and charging, and all those who don't get arrested, they're still out there, and a lot of them are still feeling the same way.
Right.
I hate to say it, but I think there will be more, and possibly worse before it gets better. Wow. This is the Department of Justice, FBI. They have to again focus on hate groups, focus on the white supremacists. Those guys seem to have had a little time off and had a free pass for a while. And, the powers that be have to get serious about understanding that these guys are in it and are back. Again, and I'll leave the thought here. As they say, what was it? The last time the Confederate flag was put in the Capitol was almost 200 years ago. 1814, I think, something like that. And then it didn't get any, it wasn't represented.
Right.
This should not be.
I don't know, man. Well, I guess we're going to call it a show. Like I said, the goal is we're going to get to that point. 30 to 40-minute show. I would say every 7 to 10 days, hopefully.
We could do it.
What I would like to do is I'm gonna reach out tomorrow to Dr. Michelle to talk about. Would love to hear her experience. Just with this whole situation.
Yep.
And other than that, I'm out. What's the best ways to get in contact with you?
You know me on Twitter, Late Night Rich.
And I am the real Ted Hicks, and we are out.
Everyone, have a great week. See you next time.